Welcome to The Explainer. If you're a developer, you know the feeling. So much of a project's critical knowledge is just stuck in someone's head. Well, today we're cracking open a fascinating academic study and turning it into a practical guide for getting that knowledge out in the open, using GitHub.
So let's just start with a huge number. When this research was being done, there were 28 million developers on GitHub. That's not just a website. It's a whole universe of shared code and, more importantly, shared knowledge. But, of course, that scale creates a pretty big challenge.
And this is the problem we've all run into, right? Whether you're brand new to a project and you're just trying to figure out where to start, or you're a maintainer trying to get new people up to speed, that vital project knowledge can feel like it's scattered to the winds. It just makes everything harder. So, here's our game plan. We're going to break down the two basic types of knowledge, then look at the GitHub toolkit you have to manage it. After that, we'll see what the really popular projects do differently, look at how things are changing over time, and then wrap it all up with an action plan you can actually use.
Okay, first things first. We have to build a foundation here. To really get a handle on managing knowledge, we need to understand the two main ways it exists in any software project, period.
On one side, you have what's called tacit knowledge. This is the magic stuff, right? It's that senior dev's gut feeling for where a bug is probably hiding. It's the intuition, the experience. It's super powerful, but it's also incredibly hard to write down. And then on the other side, you have explicit knowledge. This is the stuff that is written down, your API documentation, your setup instructions. It's structured, it's clear, and anyone can find it.
Now, what's so cool about this is that the academic research puts formal names on these ideas we all kind of feel. Tacit knowledge is personal, it's subjective, it's a real pain to capture. Explicit knowledge is objective, structured, and way easier to share. And really, the whole game of knowledge management is about moving information from that left column over to the right.
So the big question is, how do we do that? How do we move knowledge from in your head to in the docs? Well, it turns out GitHub gives us a whole set of tools or channels designed for exactly that.
The first key process has a bit of a fancy name, externalization, but don't let that fool you. All it really means is getting that valuable, intuitive knowledge out of someone's brain and putting it somewhere the rest of the team can actually use it.
And these are your best tools for the job. A project's wiki or a really good README are perfect examples. They're basically blank canvases where an experienced developer can just explain things, like why a certain piece of code is so tricky, and make that knowledge permanent and available to everybody.
Now, the second process is called combination. This is a bit different. It's not about pulling new knowledge out of someone's head. It's about taking all the knowledge that's already written down and organizing it into a clear, structured system that people can follow. And this just illustrates it perfectly. I mean, think about it contributing that MD file or a license. They take all these little individual pieces of information, like how to format a pull request or the legal terms of use, and they combine them into a single standardized resource for the whole project. Okay, so we've got our two processes, externalization and combination, and we have the GitHub channels for each. Now for the really fun part. Let's see how this stuff actually plays out in the wild. Do the most popular and successful projects do things differently than everyone else? So to find the answer, the researchers use this really cool technique called topological data analysis. I know, it sounds complicated, but think of it like this. It's a way to draw a map where projects that behave similarly, like using the same communication channels, end up clustering together.
And right away, a really obvious pattern just jumped off the page. You can see it circled right here. A very clear group of the most popular projects all huddled together. This means they share a common strategy for how they communicate and share knowledge.
So what's the secret? What do they all have in common? Well, the big takeaway is that they lean heavily on those combination channels. They create structure. They formalize the rules with a code of conduct, they clarify the process with contributing guidelines, and they define the terms with a license. It makes it so much easier and safer for new people to jump in and contribute effectively. But, things in the open source world don't stand still for long. The way developers share knowledge is always changing. So for our next section, let's look at how these channels have been evolving. I mean, you can just see the difference with your own eyes here. On the left, you've got projects from 2015, and on the right, projects from just 2 years later in 2017. The whole landscape, the main clusters and colors, has totally shifted. So what specifically changed? Well, the data shows that having a dedicated contributing guidelines file became a little less dominant.
And that might be because GitHub itself was evolving, right? They started adding things like pull request templates, which moved that explicit knowledge even closer to the actual workflow. But at the same time, the core stuff, the issue tracker, the license, the wiki, those remain the bedrock of project communication. All right, we've gone through the theory, the tools, and the trends. So what does this all mean for you and your projects? Let's boil it all down into a super simple action plan. Here you go, a 3-point checklist. First, use a mix of channels. Don't just throw everything into a giant README and call it a day. Second, keep up with the times. The best way to communicate is always changing, so take a look at your strategy every once in a while. And third, if you want your project to grow, learn from the big ones. Create clear, structured, explicit guidelines.
And this quote from the researchers really brings it all home. Being intentional about how and where you share knowledge is one of the most powerful things you can do to make your project welcoming, successful, and sustainable, especially for anyone who's new.
So we'll leave you with that one final thought to take with you. Take a hard look at your own projects and ask yourself, is our most valuable knowledge trapped, or is it out in the open for everyone to build on? Thanks for watching.